Hello guys, Crispy here, welcome back to another video. In this one, my friends, I'm going to be testing a GeForce RTX 5090 in Cyberpunk 2077. This one is the Founders Edition model of the card. You can see some of its specs here in Tech Power-Up's GPU Z, because since the card is not out yet, this hasn't been updated to show all of the GPU specs. And over on the left, I am pairing it with a Ryzen 7 9800X 3D and 32GB of RAM. Let's get into it, shall we? First up, let's go over the settings. I'm starting at 4K, utilizing the Ultra Settings preset, but I will disable resolution scaling, which comes on by default, and it's FSR for some reason, and the motion blur and these three options as well. Everything else, I'll leave it as is, and this is without ray tracing at the moment, okay? We'll get there later on in this video, and I will also test some resolution scaling with DLSS, the transformer model and stuff like that, but let's start like this. And here we go, guys. This is pure rasterization at the moment. We're getting 100 FPS at 4K native resolution. This looks really good still. We still got some reflections going and stuff like that, even though we're not using ray tracing. Obviously, they're not accurate reflections, but the game is absolutely beautiful anyways, once again. And this is a good improvement over the RTX 4090 here at 4K ultra settings without ray tracing. For some reason, in my tests and in the benchmark run on this video as well, where I tested it against the RTX 4090, this was 45% faster here. Although with ray tracing enabled, it was only about like 20, 25, somewhere around that, you know, maybe up to 30 sometimes, but yeah, this is where I saw the biggest difference compared to the 4090. Goodbye, Bob! There we go, starting off very well, my friends. And that was very surprising to see, once again, like, this is rasterization here. I don't know why we're seeing such a big difference. The 4090 was getting 60 to 70 FPS here, doing this little benchmark run of mine, killing Bob and so on. This is getting 96 average. Kind of a crazy difference there. I don't know why that is. So let's stop it right there, guys. Should we check out this bar over? No. This is not fit for YouTube, I think. Anyway, the performance was really good. You can play this game at native 4K if you want to, obviously, but you can make it better as well. So let's try the new DLSS Super Resolution with Transformer model. Or should we try the CNN version first? This is the old version of DLSS Super Resolution in this game. Yeah, you know what? Let's try the oldest version first on quality, just to take a look at the graphics here, okay? Alright, so we're standing right here getting 126 frames per second with the CNN model, DLSS 3.5 basically, and with the new DLSS 4 transformer model, we get 114, so we dropped quite a few frames there, okay, about 10, 11 frames per second, but the quality of DLSS now is just awesome. Actually, I've seen a ton of comparisons already. I've compared it myself, and performance DLSS now at 4K looks fantastic. It's like balanced DLSS previously, or even quality in some ways. It improved the quality of DLSS by quite a lot, guys, and you still get quite a big improvement in terms of FPS. So it looks better. FPS are a little bit lower than the old DLSS version, but come on, I mean, still an absolute blast of an experience here in Cyberpunk with these FPS of it. Why did you want to die? Are you serious? Goodbye, Bob! Okay, that was a nice jump, Bob. Oh, we still reload without a magazine. That's beautiful. This bug is still here. Alright, let's run around here and shoot at the cops over here as well. Yes, sir. See the FPS over there, 117, 120s. It's buttery smooth. Obviously, it's still without ray tracing and this quality DLSS, but it basically looks like native 4K resolution at the moment, if not a tad bit sharper. Like, this is insane, guys. Obviously, on a YouTube video, you can't really see things very well, but let me tell you, this new transformer model is just amazing. But now, if you want to utilize, like, performance DLSS, for example, again, this will look fantastic. It's a little bit more aliased in some areas, I guess, but it looks so good. It looks very similar to the quality DLSS preset, dare I say. Holy crap, the previous quality DLSS preset. Anyways, we're getting 140 FPS now, and it seems like we are CPU limited, guys, with the 9800X 3D. fastest CPU, or fastest gaming CPU in the world at the moment, and it's getting us 70-80% GPU utilization here, basically because we are rendering the game at 1080p resolution now and upscaling to 4K. But yeah, this is it, still very smooth. But what if you want a true high refresh rate experience and you don't care about ray tracing yet? Okay. Well, let's check it out with quality DLSS, which again looked really similar to native resolution, if not sharper in some ways. And let's enable DLSS frame generation. This is still without ray tracing, okay? Those 280, 220 FPS that we were seeing in the review video that I made, I was playing this game there with ray tracing and multi-frame generation set to 4 times. Now we're about to do it without ray tracing. I wonder what kind of FPS we'll see. Oh boy, okay, 300s here. This is so buttery smooth. I mean, it was already buttery smooth previously because I'm running a 120 Hz monitor and capture card here, but still, it's kind of insane to see those values there, guys. And it's set to 4 times, okay. And by the way, we'll see the little latency comparison a little bit later, okay. Now, you might take a look at this frame time graph and think that this is terrible, it's stuttering all over the place, but no, that's just because of their new flip metering technology that they implemented on the 50 series cards, where the frame pacing, instead of taking place in the CPU side of things, it actually takes place in the GPU, and that's after the MSI Afterburner overlay can read the 1% lows and make the frame time graph. That's why it looks like that, okay? Again, the baseline FPS were already really high at around 120 frames per second, if you remember it. DLSS quality, ultra settings, no ray tracing. So adding frame gen over this just doesn't really make the input lag field worse at all. Like, this is pretty much the same. Actually, I'm going to shoot the police in the roundabout again because that's a very good test of input lag. But yeah, basically this opens the door for you to enjoy 240 Hz, even 360 Hz 4K monitors, which is absolutely insane. It wasn't possible before with the previous frame generation. All right, let's see. Okay, headshot. Stop it, stop it, stop. Wait. Okay, there we go. There we go. Let's try to hit those flick shots here a little bit. Come on. And over there. Let's go. Oh boy. Oh boy. It might look like there's a lot of input lag actually, but there isn't, okay? It's just me being bad at the game at the moment. I'm used to flicking shots. I'm used to doing flick shots and stuff in Counter-Strike, not in this one. This is not my sensitivity and stuff, but it feels good, once again, even the shooting mechanics here. Now, talking about the quality of the frames themselves, again, like, it looks really good, in my opinion, especially with that transformer mic. You bastard! You ruined my headlight. This is terrible. I like to see the shadows, dynamic shadows and stuff in front of the headlight sometimes, so I don't like to crash against things very often, but yeah, we all know that happens very often. So anyways, guys, in terms of the quality of the frames, as I was saying, it still looks really good. I mean, it's a tad bit softer because every time you enable frame generation, it gets a tad bit softer. But in terms of artifacting and stuff like that, even in words and text, basically, it's not bad whatsoever. I can't see major artifacting anywhere, if any, actually, guys. It's very hard to see and notice, and I have noticed a little bit of it in my testing, but it's so minor, it doesn't matter. You actually need to be looking for it, so it's really nice technology, guys. And obviously, GPU still shouldn't cost $2,000. That's absolutely ridiculous price for a graphics card. Come on, you can build a high-end system with the price of just this GPU, but that's besides the point. Like, the actual technology here, the DLSS 4, not only the transformer model looks really good, and it's a great improvement over the normal DLSS that we're used to, the CNN version, but the multi-frame gen works extremely well. All right, now I'm gonna stop it right there, okay? And we're going to take a look at the PC latency here without the ray tracing, with quality DLSS ultra settings at 4K. So for that, we're using frame view, which is on the top right of the screen, and I'll probably make it bigger, okay? And the one that we are most interested in, that's not showcased in MSI Afterburner on the left, is the PC latency, the third metric PCL. And it shows 30-ish milliseconds here. Let's drive around this road and then come back and then do it again without the multi-frame gen. Actually, let's do it in this road right here, because the frame gen, if you want to disable it, you need to restart the game. All right, and this is my save over here. So 31 milliseconds of input lag with the 4x FG. That's pretty incredible once again, guys. The baseline FPS were already pretty good, and that's why the PC latency is actually pretty low there. Obviously, native frames will still give you the snappiest experience, but we're talking about a few milliseconds, so it's not really going to matter too much. And as you can see here, it goes up to like 35 milliseconds. I saw that. That was the maximum so far. Oh, gosh. This is bad. Okay. I thought this was going to be a bit smoother of a driving experience. Okay, I wouldn't crash and stuff, but of course I need to take a look at a very small number on the top right of the screen. I'm not used to it, okay? But anyway, yeah, around 32 to 35 milliseconds of PC latency. That's really snappy still, okay? Like, I can't really feel the input lag at the moment with these frame rates. But now let's try it with like 2x FG, okay? And this should be a slight bit lower. Yeah, there we go. Getting down into the 20s, still 31, but 29, 31. So this is the FG that you will get in the 4000 series, basically. 2x FG, but with the new DLSS 4 improvements. And the PC latency is still 31, 33 sometimes. It went up to 29, but 28 there. Doesn't really stay in the 20s very often, so it's only a couple of milliseconds, I'd say, lower than it was on 4x FG. That's pretty crazy once again, because you can't really feel the difference. It's 2 milliseconds of a difference. You know, like that's amazing. All right, but now that we've arrived here, let's check it out, of course, without any frame gen whatsoever. That should be pretty interesting. I'm expecting like low 20s, but let's find out. Stopped right here, 27, 25 milliseconds. All right, turn that off. Gotta restart. And well, here we go, guys. This is without frame generation. Moving the mouse around, maybe I can feel a little bit of a difference. Slightly snappier here, but previously I didn't really notice a difference because, well, it wasn't back-to-back, you know. And as you can see, going over the settings again, it's still exactly the same, but frame gen is off, so ultra settings, no ray tracing yet. And starting with low 20s in terms of PC latency there, and milliseconds. And we're getting 23... Oh boy! Oh gosh! Maybe I should get a smaller monitor. Anyway, 23, 24 milliseconds. See that, guys? We're talking about an increase in 10 milliseconds in terms of PC latency, 4x frame generation compared to native right now, which is 120 FPS and 20 to 25 milliseconds most of the time. Maybe average of 23 or something. But yeah, this is crazy. Like, it feels pretty much the same, but previously on a super high refresh rate monitor, you could take advantage of multi-frame generation and have that 240 Hz, 360 Hz experience. It's great. I really like it. Now let's move to the Ray Tracing Ultra preset, and first of all I will disable the resolution scaling altogether, okay? So this is going to be 4K native with ray tracing or ultra ray tracing, not path tracing, that's way more intensive. But let's restart the game and check it out like this. And we're back here on Ray Tracing Ultra native 4K, getting just below 60 FPS, guys. PC latency is now up. You bastard! Are you serious? Are you serious? I'm trying to make a benchmark here. Come on. PC latency, as I was saying, is way higher than it was before, with or without frame gen, of course, because the native FPS are way lower at the moment. So we're getting around 35 or 38 to 40 milliseconds of PC latency. It definitely feels a lot worse than previously, of course, and less responsive, less snappy, basically. But it's still 60 FPS on average. Yep, it's dropping now, so that's pretty bad. It's still playable like this, but obviously you shouldn't really play at native resolution with ray tracing enabled. I believe that's why they made DLSS, actually, because they saw that the RTX 20 series, when they came out, they didn't really run RT that well. Obviously, it was a first-generation product, and for them to be able to run RT, DLSS was invented, and now DLSS is really good. And ray tracing, well, it's just as intensive, if not more now, with path tracing especially. But yeah, this is the performance if you were interested in knowing what the 5090 can do natively. 60 FPS around that, which might not sound that impressive, but think about it. It's ray tracing ultra preset. When this game came out, we had 30 series around, and you needed to play at 1080p resolution to see around 60 FPS average on a 3080 Ti native res, okay, at 1080p Ultra RT. Now we're doing that at 4K. That requires quite a bit more power, right? But of course, this is definitely not how anyone should play this once again. So I'm gonna go ahead and enable DLSS SR, or super resolution there. Let's do quality first. No frame generation at the moment. I'll also utilize ray reconstruction, which looks way better in terms of reflections. And now we're jumped from 60 FPS to 90 frames per second, even with the transformer model, which is more intensive than the CNN version, once again, as we saw previously. Not gonna test the CNN version anymore, because this is just the way to go. Also, these little stutters sometimes happens when the game auto-saves. It's not like the game is stuttered. Well, it kind of is, but yeah, it's not the hardware once again. Let's goodbye, Bod. Oh, Bob. Bod. What? I called him Bod this time. Bod is actually a bit more offensive than Bob here in Portugal. Anyway, moving on. Reflections look absolutely phenomenal on top of this car now with the RT Ultra preset. There's no need to utilize like path tracing if you don't want to use it. The PC latency is at 30 to 32 milliseconds at the moment, 33. So I would say it's about the same as we were seeing previously with 4K Ultra DLSS quality and the multi-frame generation set to 4 times. So in terms of native latency compared to native frames, it would be the same as you playing a game at 90 FPS, apparently, or this particular game at least. Yeah, that's why I couldn't really tell much of a difference, guys, because when you get to the 90 FPS range and upwards, it's already a really snappy feeling in games, so I got nothing to complain about, at least so far in this video, okay? And well, I guess I will try DLSS performance. By the way, I'm skipping balanced, as many people do as well, because otherwise this video would be an hour long. I'm not even sure if it will be an hour long, actually, but by skipping balance and going straight to performance, you know that balance is in between of quality and this that we're seeing right here, and we're hitting a little bit of a CPU limited scenario, guys. Alright, 90% GPU usage, going down slightly sometimes, 130-ish FPS, because ray tracing is also really intensive on the CPU side of things. It's not only GPU intensive, it also hits the CPU quite hard, so now the CPU bottleneck's a little bit lower than it was previously on ultra settings. This transformer mode, especially with ray reconstruction enabled at the same time, is looking fantastic. In terms of reflections, in terms of pretty much everything on screen, they cooked. I don't usually say this, but they did cook with this new DLSS, and it's nice that it also is available or will be available on older GPUs. Even like 30 series can take advantage of DLSS 4 in the transformer mode here in Cyberpunk. I think that update is already live by the time this video comes out, so great stuff, right guys? So let's stop it right there. Let's go back to quality here, and let's try some frame generation again, which, well, requires a restart. Alright, we're back here at 4K using DLSS transformer quality, DLSS ray reconstruction, DLSS frame generation 4 times. Alright, I don't think I will do 2 times anymore because, you know, already the difference is 2 milliseconds, so it doesn't really matter. So in terms of PC latency, things are looking good still. 35 milliseconds there, so it's still a little bit better than the 60 FPS that we were seeing before, you know? 40s there, 42 milliseconds, 39. So the PC latency now is about the same as what? Native 60 frames per second, which still feels really good, of course. But it's still absolutely 100% playable like this, guys. It looks amazing like this. And goodbye, Bob! For a high refresh rate panel at 4K resolution, I would have no problems playing like this. Okay, but I think where the best experience will come with the multi-frame generation set to 4 times here with ray tracing is with performance DLSS. Alright, because then the input lag will be even better. But once again, if I didn't have that PC latency enabled, and we're getting like 35 to 40 milliseconds, so 5 more milliseconds than previously, which, I mean, it's not negligible. I can notice a difference here, but still feels snappy once again. What are you doing? Hello? The guy's just standing there saying murderers. Okay, so stop it, thank you. Alright, what are you guys doing as well? Guys, I feel like this is still Cyberbug in some ways. Can we start calling it Cyberbug again? Those were the golden days, remember? Alright, let's get out of here. Oh boy, flashbang. Sorry, guys, if you're watching this on an HDR screen. I mean, the video isn't HDR, so it doesn't matter. But let's go. So that's it. That's the experience here. Once again, I'm not counting the 1% lows, but you can actually see the 1% lows now on the on-screen display on the top right frame view. Again, this is just a buttery smooth experience. Super playable with around the same input lags of native 60 FPS. So yeah, it's good. If you're playing like Marvel Rivals, for example, and getting these FPS, that would be terrible, of course, because the input lag is around the same as 60 FPS, but here it works extremely well, once again. I just hope that developers don't start relying on this. I can say I like this technology, I want to know where it's going to be in like 2 or 3 years, but at the same time, I'm very scared about game developers. But anyway, let's do Ray Tracing Overdrive, which is path tracing. This, obviously, the preset selects DLSS transformer model, DLSS super resolution set to auto, which is performance at 4K. But, well, first of all, let's try it without the resolution scaling altogether, alright? So path tracing here. Let's actually max out everything aside from these options here. These don't really impact FPS too much, it's just because I don't like them, and the video will look better to you guys if I disable them. And I think that's about it. That's the one setting that we needed to set to Psycho for a game to be completely maxed out with path tracing enabled at the same time. Let's restart. Oh boy. Alright, here we go, guys. This is path tracing at native 4K resolution, and this is what people are talking about when they say, oh, the 5090 is only getting 5 FPS more than the 4090, or like 7. Yeah, this is what they're talking about. It's still like a 30% improvement, but yeah, it's unplayable at this point. With such an expensive GPU, obviously this is not the experience that you want, but we all gotta remind ourselves once again that if ray tracing was super demanding already, and it could actually run it at 60 FPS, which was impressive at native 4K, path tracing is even more demanding, and 30 FPS, well, I'm not gonna say it's impressive, because it's not. At least in my eyes, I look at this, I don't see major improvements to the visual quality, you know, to call it a super impressive thing. But yeah, this is the performance, guys. 29 sometimes. It's pretty crappy of an experience. You're not buying this card to play like this, but DLSS 4 actually allows you to play with path tracing with a lot more frames, and it will become a good experience in just a little bit. So at least we can do it now. If it wasn't for the multi-frame generation, we wouldn't see path tracing being playable with high refresh rates for like 3 more years, maybe in the next generation. I don't even know. Maybe the next generation, if it's a big improvement, it's going to bring like 50% more frames, which will be 45. So it's not really that impressive either if you think about the frame rate number. But yeah, this is it, guys. This is the native performance of path tracing with a 5090. Let's do DLSS quality now, ray reconstruction as well. And just by enabling that, we're now up into the high 50s and touching 60 FPS sometimes. Looking really good still. Like, actually here with path tracing, I feel like DLSS cleans up the visual noise that comes from path tracing a bit, and it looks better now than it did previously. It's probably ray reconstruction doing that, actually, not the DLSS, but... well, this DLSS ray reconstruction, but yeah. But anyway, I would not call this a great experience by any means still, guys, but it's getting there. We're closely getting to a point where path tracing will actually look good and be playable at the same time here in this video, and that's pretty amazing once again. And again, guys, I know I need to say this. I feel like I need to say this. I didn't even recommend this GPU because it consumes way too much power. It's not a big enough performance jump over the 4090. It doesn't bring more value than the 4090, but at the same time, I can understand why it's getting low FPS with path tracing, why it's getting low FPS with ray tracing, 4K resolution as well at the same time. Insane, you know. And I also appreciate DLSS 4 once again. I really like the technology. Don't start thinking I'm a fanboy and stuff like that. Pay reviews, that's far from the truth. Okay, like, come on. Goodbye. There we go. All right, let's stop it right there, guys, for path tracing. Around 60 FPS, quality DLSS, not too bad. It's a good baseline or decent one, but if you enable FG over this, it won't really be that great. So I'm just going to do performance DLSS instead first, okay, before we enable frame gen. And here we are getting 80s. And it's still looking really good because of that new transformer model. Previously, in this game, if you enabled DLSS performance plus path tracing plus 4K resolution, you would see kind of like an oil painting effect around some things, and that has been minimized a lot here with the new transformer model. I can still sort of see that look in a way, but it doesn't look bad by any means at the moment, okay? It's really, really nice looking. And we're playing with path tracing with native 80 frames, 80 to 90 FPS. Goodbye, Bob, again. Just never gets old, my friends. I mean, maybe it does in an hour video, so... Anyway, let's just keep on going. Doesn't seem to be dropping from 60 frames per second. 1% lows are at 57, but the 1% are always a little bit lower than what we actually see experience-wise here in this game, because the frame time is not a flat line, it's slightly variating here and there. Yeah, this is a great experience. It looks awesome. It's path tracing. It's the most technically impressive thing out at the moment, and it's getting native 80 FPS. Obviously, the input resolution or the internal resolution is 1080p, and it's being upscaled to 4K. But again, previous DLSS did that very well, and now we got DLSS transformer model, which does it even better. So now I'm disabling DLSS, okay, because I want to see the latency, the PC latency. I didn't take a look at it previously, okay? 60 milliseconds. It went up to 100 milliseconds for a moment there, but seems like it is 60 milliseconds most of the time. 50s. It's just, yeah, it sucks because it's 30 FPS once again. 60 milliseconds is what we're working with. So now let's enable that frame gen. Okay, so I'm gonna start with performance DLSS and frame gen 4 times, and then we will slowly walk until it's unplayable, because we will see when frame generation becomes actually pretty terrible. I will show you that as well, okay? And here we go, this is it, 35 milliseconds of input lag, 37 there. Slightly higher than with the RT Ultra quality DLSS, I believe. I don't remember very well, but yeah, we're getting around the same FPS, 280s, 270s. And this, again, it might be slightly, ever so slightly softer than previously, okay, than without frame gen at all. But it looks really good still. Is in a 42-inch monitor. I am using a 42-inch monitor. If you're using a 32-inch or a 27-inch, it will look even better. And I get that some people might not like the look of ray reconstruction or DLSS super resolution and stuff, but to my eyes, it looks really good. All right, 40 milliseconds, 45 sometimes, so it's kind of getting in the zone of very noticeable input lag, but not annoying still. Oh my god, stop it! So again, 45 milliseconds input lag, or 40 over here, is definitely noticeable compared to native 280 frames per second with extremely low input lags, of course, that you'd get with such higher frame rates. But again, it's still perfectly doable in Cyberpunk and in other single-player titles. And again, this would probably be the way to go if you played this game with a 240 Hz 4K monitor to take advantage of all of those hertz, basically. But now let's make it terrible. And this is where 4 times frame gen or 2 times frame gen, which is pretty much the same thing in terms of latency once again, this is where it starts sucking. Because with DLSS set to DLAA, this means that we are running native resolution, okay? 4K, it's not doing any upscaling then. And it means that we had a baseline of 30 FPS, remember that? Now with frame generation over a baseline of 30 FPS, this is what we get. 100 FPS, but look at that PC latency, guys. 75, 80. The input latency is super noticeable at the moment. The frames themselves are being properly rendered. They are being properly paced as well by that flip meter. But the input lag now is crazy high. Yeah, it's super noticeable. And it's not only the input lag, by the way. At these frame rates with multi-frame generation enabled 4 times and 30 FPS baseline, you can start noticing that some things are not quite rendering as well as they should be. Like some railings, for example, are a bit stuttery, visually stuttery, you know, they're not really stuttering, but yeah, some text as well, it's not rendering too fast. It still works in most of the picture again, but there are definitely some things that don't look like 100 FPS, and there are definitely some things that are jittery and lower quality than they were before, because now you can notice the artifacting more, because you're seeing more fake frames than real frames at the moment, guys. I'm trying to see some text over there, for example. Look at the jitter around that that text. Really weird, right? Look at that. Kind of looks like screen tearing, but it is not all screen tearing. It's actually happening. Anyway, no one should play like this, and if you have a GPU that supports multi-frame generation and can only get 30 FPS in some scenario, in some game, enabling that and getting 100 plus FPS, even though the counter says 100 plus FPS, it's not going to be a good experience, alright? This is where multi-frame generation and frame generation, the normal one as well, they suck here. It is what it is. This technology has its disadvantages and defects as well, but it works really well when you configure it to work really well, like performance DLSS. And now latency is down to 30s again. Look at that, low 30s, mid 30s in terms of milliseconds. Many more real frames are being inserted now, or rendered, I guess, between the fake frames. And yeah, it feels a lot snappier. Still really good visual quality-wise because of that transformer model. And performance DLSS here and 4K as well. It's just, this works really well, once again, when the baseline is good enough, which will be hard to get with something slower than the 5090 if you want to do path tracing with these input lags, basically. But we shall find out later with the next 50 series GPUs when they release. I will also visit them here in Cyberpunk and in other titles and do the full reviews and so on. So again, if you guys are interested, subscribe, please. I mean, it helps a lot, of course. Like the video if you are enjoying it as well, and if you have found something interesting or informative and stuff, it really helps the channel out, of course. So yeah, thank you to all of you. I actually can't believe that we're here testing a 5090 before it's even released. It's crazy. Thank you. It's all because of you. All right, guys, so that's all for the useful stuff. The graphics that you would actually utilize with a card like this at 4K resolution. Let's try it with high settings. This is the high settings preset without the resolution scaling enabled, still with DLSS 4 times. And I will also disable these once again. And this is just so we can see some insane frame rates, basically. Do I hear 360 hertz experience, guys? Crazy stuff here. Look at that. 360 hertz at 4K is now possible. Obviously, again, with frame generation, so not real frames, and the input lag is not going to be the same. But again, when the PC latency is at like 30 to 35, it's almost not noticeable. I can't really feel much of a difference at all. It still feels really snappy. You know what's about to happen, guys? Even though these are not all real frames, we are about to kill Bob with the highest frame rate in Cyberpunk ever. Goodbye, Bob! We didn't kill him. Bob, don't you run away. Bob, stop. Bob, get over here. Gosh, I'm missing everything. I need this. There we go. Bobby's dead. Goodbye, Bob, I said. There we go. Whew. It's really fast of an experience. Really snappy as well. And this is without DLSS Super Resolution. What if we set it to, like, performance here? This is still high set. Oh, boy! 500! That's insane! Wow! Okay, well, this is just ridiculous at this point again, and I wouldn't really use this to play like this, but... well, just for fun. We can have a bit of fun here. It's a huge video already, so at least let me have fun, right? But what the heck? I've never seen a frame rate that high in Cyberpunk 2077. That's awesome. And again, it's very hard to notice visual artifacts and bugs and... well, bugs are noticeable because they happen sometimes in Cyberpunk, but the visual stuff, it's still looking amazing. What about low settings? So I just set it to low with DLSS Ultra Performance, DLSS FG 4 times. I'm actually going to set it to the lowest settings possible here. So this is 4K lowest now with the 5090. Okay, DLSS FG 4 times, Ultra Performance, sorry, DLSS Transformer model. Almost 700, look at that, it hit 700. Actually, I'm going to restart because some settings might actually require a restart, but holy crap. Alright guys, we're back here. Almost 700 FPS. Driving around. Holy crap. That's insane. Obviously now the game looks pretty bad. Let's be real here. The textures, everything look pretty awful. So this doesn't look impressive whatsoever anymore in terms of visuals. And there is quite a bit of aliasing everywhere. I can notice shimmering as well. Goodbye, Bob, at nearly 700 FPS. Oh, yes, beautiful stuff. He's dead, right? Yes, he is. Okay, beautiful. But yeah, it's still kind of crazy to think that this is 720p being upscaled to 4K, because it doesn't look like 720p at all. And we don't even have sharpness added to it. If I go over here, where is the sharpness slider? Oh, there it is. And select like 25% sharpness. Looks a little bit better. Kind of masks the fact that this is such a low resolution, but it's that Transformer model is doing a great job of upscaling 720p to 4K to the point where it's not too bad. Previously it was terrible, now it's not too bad. I would never do this still, but yeah. Kind of doable. For example, on a cheaper GPU, I could see someone with like a 4060, for example, or a 4050 laptop GPU connecting to a 4K screen and using high settings, DLSS Ultra Performance, and achieving decent FPS without frame gen. It's crazy how far DLSS has come, and this one iteration from DLSS 3 to 4 is huge in terms of the quality and the frame rates as well, and multi-frame gen, but I guess 4 times FG is not something absolutely new. It is new on Nvidia GPUs, but you could do it on AMD. I have done it with AFMF2 plus FSR FG implementations in games. It works. It's definitely a lot worse than this one is, but it's nothing completely 100% new. So that's about it for these settings. Let's try 1080p. I will say it with a straight face. Let's try it at 1080p resolution. Let's try it at 1080p resolution using the... Let's try it at 1080p resolution, guys, using DLSS Transformer mode, Ultra Performance, DLSS FG 4 times, lowest settings. Yeah. Okay, it's not too different. Okay, we're reaching another limitation here. GPU usage is at 60%. It could possibly be a CPU bottleneck at the moment. Still went a little bit over what we were seeing before. Obviously, it looks absolutely terrible at the moment. Almost reaching 800. Can we actually... Yes. If I look up... 900. Now, can we get 1,000 FPS? We're getting close, guys. Looking at the sky. 1,000 FPS Cyberpunk. Oh, yeah. I mean, we should be able to hit that even while looking in a direction like this, for example. Almost. Oh, there we go. 1,000 FPS. Not even looking at the sky, guys. Look at that. Isn't it beautiful? Now my life is complete. No. Wait, we need 8K resolution testing. Okay, here we are at 7680 by 4320 resolution, guys. 8K. It's 4 times 4K, like running 4 4K monitors. And I decided to start on the high settings preset. I disabled these as well as the resolution scaling. So we're at native 8K resolution to start this off. Let's see how it does. Look at that. It's less intensive than path tracing, guys. It's less intensive than 4K native with path tracing. And this is still high settings, not low settings or anything. High settings. 30-ish FPS. Feels pretty bad, of course, because it's 30 FPS, but it's not utilizing DLSS or frame generation, so these are real frames per second that we're seeing here, and the input lag is, well, 30 FPS input lag, so no problem there. Goodbye, Bob! He didn't even... Wait, how did you survive that, you bastard? Come over here. Come. Bob! Yeah. There we go. Goodbye, Bob, I said. Thank you very much. Anyway, that's it for 8K with DLSS. Should we try 8K with Ray Tracing Overdrive? I'm really curious to see if it will run out of VRAM here, so I'm gonna do Ray Tracing Overdrive. Alright, path tracing, performance DLSS. It doesn't run out of VRAM. Alright. It's getting really low FPS, of course. And this is performance DLSS SR, so it means that it's rendering the game at 4K and upscaling to 8K, and of course that upscaling part of it is still very intensive. But it is not too far off of the native 4K FPS that we were seeing before. I think we should try this with frame generation and path tracing at the same time, and no motion blur, please. Thank you. So the main question that I have here is not whether it's going to feel good, because it won't. It's not the FPS, it's whether the VRAM is actually enough to push these insane resolutions with frame gen, which also consumes more VRAM. Oh my god. What is happening though? This is really weird. Like, frame gen is definitely working, because I can see a lot of artifacting right now. We're having 30, or we had 30 FPS or 20-ish FPS real frames before, so you can see a lot of artifacting, a lot of weirdness as well around the car. I see some reflections that shouldn't really be there. And you know what? The input lag is insane. It's above 100 milliseconds from what I can tell. I can't really read it very well. It's very small at the moment, but it's terrible. But the weird thing is, the frame time graph is not weird like it was before. That's really weird. I don't know what this... Look at the back of the car now. Some very weird stuff happening there, like warping of the image and stuff. And I'm wondering, if we disable DLSS and leave FG enabled, can we do it? Because that was performance DLSS. It was using 4K resolution and upscaling to 8K. Yeah, we can do this. It completely ran out of VRAM at this point. Alright, so it just can't really handle that, even with 32 gigabytes. This is just crazy high resolution, of course. Oh no, it's having a hard time loading the menu. It's allocating 32 gigabytes and using 31 in the menu, guys. Alright, you know what? Let's do low at native res. Without frame gen at 8K resolution. Oh, no way. No way, guys. We're at 8K resolution, low settings, no DLSS or frame generation, okay? and the motion blur is off. I wanted to double check that. This is low settings, not lowest, so it still looks pretty decent, right, in terms of the looks, the actual graphics, not the resolution, and it's getting 60 FPS. First time getting 60 FPS at 8K native in Cyberpunk. Kind of crazy, guys. Imagine if this thing was actually like 60% faster than the 4090, like the 4090 was compared to the 3090. Obviously, that wasn't going to happen back to back in the next generation, but if we had that, we would probably see like 90 FPS here. That would be crazy. It's still crazy that we're getting 60 FPS at 8K native. With these graphics, it's low settings, but it still looks good. That means that with DLSS performance here, yeah, it looks basically the same, and it gets flat 100 FPS there. Wow. It's the smoothest I have ever seen 8K, guys. Not true 8K, because again, it's not native now, but it looks like 8K anyways with DLSS quality, performance and the transformer model. Wow. So now I'm wondering, guys. We're getting 9.8 gigabytes of VRAM allocation at the moment. Can we do 16K? Because usually the limitations of 16K, at least with the 4090 when I tested that at 16K in some games, the limitation was the VRAM. We might not have a problem with VRAM even at 16K, since at low settings in 8K it's using 9 gigabytes, or actually it's using 8 gigabytes at the moment. Let's try 16K. Alright guys, I'm gonna use the custom DSR tool as usual to play at 16K. Gonna edit this, set it to 4 times on the X-axis and 4 times on the Y-axis, which makes it 16 times the 4K resolution, my native res. Alright, so I just set the desktop to 16K. It's 15360 by 8640 there. It's very small. Oh boy, let's do this. Oh my gosh, let's see. It instantly applied. Okay, all good, guys. This is it. What the hell? It is working. It's still on performance mode, DLSS, and I have set it to the minimum settings, not the low preset anymore. What is going on? We broke the menu of the game. No way. Hey, Ruth.
Great to have you back.
It is
Son,
great.
did y'all hear about
I'm
that
sick of
Cyberpunk
hearing you
aircraft
today,
carrier
though.
docked in Night
Please
City?
shut up. Oh, no. I didn't mean it like that. I didn't want it to crash. No. It flatlined. It actually did crash before loading. This is such a shame. I was looking forward to this. God damn it. Okay, I managed to get to the menu again, guys. This is 16K, and I'm using Ultra Performance DLSS now. I'm not sure if it's gonna work again, but we can try. Okay. Okay. It's working. It's 60 FPS. Oh my god, I cannot believe this. I mean, of course, this is a lot lower than 16K because we're using DLSS performance, but I didn't even think it would launch since it crashed with performance. And let alone see 60 FPS. This is awesome. And again, it's not fake frames or anything. These are real FPS. In my GTA 5 video, which doesn't even support DLSS and frame generation and so on, people were saying, oh, those frames that you're getting, those are fake frames. Don't let this guy fool you, people. He's showing you fake frames. Well, seriously, like GTA from 10 years ago, it didn't have DLSS. It still doesn't. Doesn't matter, guys. 60 FPS. 60 real frames. I'm gonna try it, guys. I'm gonna try turning it off. This is a terrible idea. It applied. Okay. Resume. Oh! Oh! We're working at 16K! Cannot believe this! The shadows are all bugged out! Oh my god! Everything is so weird! Obviously the game wasn't meant to be played at 16K. The developers never thought that someone would open this game at 16K resolution and play it, of course. That's why some things are buggy as hell, but right now, well, aside from those shadows again, the shadow situation is terrible, but this is 16K native at the moment, guys. 16K native in Cyberpunk. It's probably going to crash in a little bit as that VRAM fills up, but it's not completely filled up yet. It's at 29 gigs of allocation. RAM is at 10 gigs, so it didn't swap anything. I guess the shadows being bugged is what's keeping us from hitting the limits of the VRAM, maybe? I'm just speculating here, okay? But wow, we're getting 20-something FPS in Cyberpunk at 16K. That is absolute insanity. Let's kill Bob, of course! Goodbye, Bob! Glorious! Glorious Bob! His rubber banding and everything is amazing. I love it. Glorious 16K Bob kill, guys. The first of its kind. I guess I could go for a Guinness record or something. The first kill of Bob in Cyberpunk running at 16K. Maybe even the first video running Cyberpunk at 16K. It probably is. It wasn't possible before with 24 gigabytes of VRAM on the 4090. 32 gigabytes were needed. And GDDR7 as well with that insane bandwidth. That's what's allowing us to play right now at 16K. This is absolute insanity. I really didn't think this would happen after seeing the crash previously, but it is working. And with all of that said, that's been it for this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed this one. It was a huge video, of course. I covered a lot of important settings, things that you guys will probably utilize. We talked about DLSS 4, of course, and the frame generation, the input lags. We also reached 1000 FPS in Cyberpunk. Not even looking at the sky, you know, looking at something that wasn't intensive at all. But it doesn't matter. We went up and beyond to 1000 FPS. Now we're down to 20s, but up in resolution. 132 megapixels being rendered here every second, 24 times a second at the moment. Cinematic, isn't it? Thanks for watching. Love you all. Bye-bye.